Yeah, one of the common questions we get is like, of the four, what should I implement first? I always think that COI and future casting are pretty easy ones to start with. And if I were to pick one, I'd say future casting is probably the easiest one to really lean into. Hey everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Elliott and I are just super thrilled to be here, invited by the LabCoatAgents to come and present to you our topic, the 4 secret black belt strategies to doubling your conversion rates for your real estate business. We are just super thrilled and thankful for being here. Listen, if you're on Facebook, let us know where you're coming in from. If you're here live with us in Zoom, let us know where you're coming in from today. Want to make sure that we acknowledge and and also you know how to get to the chat, because we'll take questions at the end. So we're excited to be here with you. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to get going because we want to keep this tight and really to time. So we'll be about 35 to 45 minutes, depending on the questions at the end. And we're just super excited to be here with you today to, just to kind of share with you our presentation. Let me just get that started. Well, hello from Ventura and Corpus Christi and Santa Rosa, Tom, Samantha, Jake, thanks for being here with us today. Really appreciate it. So let's get the party started here. So, we hear a lot in the marketplace. You just need more leads. You gotta have more leads. And now that's what most people are telling you. And we're not going to be up here telling you that today. A lot of people are telling you need a new ad strategy. Got to get more ads out there. Got to get the marketing funnel dialed in. You gotta be able to get more top line folks. And the message we're here to tell you today is that you need to simply be converting your existing lead sources at a higher rate. And if you do that, you are going to have incredible success in all areas of your business. You just need to be converting them at a higher rate. And over the next 30 minutes, our intention is to show you some black belt strategies that, when implemented correctly, are going to help you double your conversion rates for your business. So there I was, about at the beginning of my sales career. I started my sales career at about 13 years old, and I was slinging popcorn at a movie theater and selling people on the next size up of popcorn, of drink and their popcorn for 50 cents. And that was my first taste of the persuasion techniques. And flash forward to today, I am the director of sales of a company called Advance Your Reach. We help people use speaking as a way to grow their business. And in that business, I've helped create it into over a $20 million annual business. And the strategies that we're going to show you today have been tested both in the business world, but also on the mats. And we're bringing together both areas, jiu-jitsu and sales together, like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. When I started my role at Advance Your Reach, the company was about 1.5 million a year. And that year was on pace to hit only 2.5 million. And I was frustrated. And like many of you, I hit a bit of a sales slump. And like many of you, I said it was because of not enough leads. Or poor leads, or I didn't have the right product suite, or I didn't know what to sell. And like many of you, I found a way out of my current situation. And like many of you, what I know to be true is there's always room to get better. And what we want to do, and my hope, is that you're going to learn some strategies here today that you're going to go and put into your businesses right away. And these are strategies that have been responsible for over $100 million in sales. And so there I was, minding my own business on Facebook, as one does. And I saw that there was a program that Elliott was promoting to come out and mastermind on your business and learn some jiu-jitsu. I just lost 100 pounds and I was looking for a way to reconnect my body.
So as Daniel mentioned, I run a program called Mastermind BJJ, which marries jiu-jitsu training with networking for entrepreneurs. And we'd get together before the gym was open. We'd take folks through some kind of strategy lessons from the mats, talk about how they apply to business and life. And then we'd go to brunch and talk about life and business as entrepreneurs do. And pretty quickly into Daniel coming out, as I teach a technique or I talk about a philosophy or a strategy, you'd see his eyes light up. And over brunch, I would ask, what was it that struck you? What was it that stuck out to you? And as we kept seeing this happen, it just became clear that there were so many beautiful overlaps between how Daniel teaches sales and how I teach jiu-jitsu. And as this kept happening, eventually someone was like, okay, guys, just write a book already. We turned to each other and thought, wow, okay, there maybe is something here. And 2 years later, here we are, not only with this book, but a really great program for helping people improve their businesses.
Yeah, it was just interesting because what really separates our methodology is the core concept of winning without ever hurting anyone. And it's really the secret of the book and our systems.
Yeah. So for those not familiar with jiu-jitsu, the jiu-jitsu literally translated means gentle art. And a common question that comes up is, well, only old school sales is this kind of competitive, combative mindset. Modern sales is sales as a service. So how does it make sense to marry, a form of fighting with modern sales? And it goes back to that idea of the gentle art, and not only winning without fighting or without trying to hurt anyone, but more, we take a formula that I've created for winning in a jiu-jitsu competition and compare that to a sales engagement and take the exact same process that we use to win on the mats and apply it to a sales engagement. And one thing to understand is we're not competing with our clients. If we have, as I know you do, if you have something that can really serve them and improve their lives, then anything that's going to get in the way of you helping them is not just your opponent, it's their opponent. So we're not competing against or fighting against the prospect. We're fighting against the forces that get in the way of them actually saying yes.
So as the book came together, we saw that it solved some very specific problems. Things like my team isn't overcoming objections, my team isn't closing, not getting consistent results from either yourself or the reps. If for you specifically, if you're not leading a team, but you're the one out there selling, no matter what you do, you can't get prospects to engage with you. You've got objections you can't handle, deals that we're going to close, they just fell through your fingers. And these are some of the biggest complaints that we saw. And what we created is a systematic approach with over 30 different strategies, of which we're going to talk about 4 today. But Elliott, tell us a little bit more about dive a little bit more into the process.
Yeah. So again, this is a framework that I created for my students to help them be successful in a jiu-jitsu competition. And the parallels are incredible. So the 4 phases are pre-fight, what you do before a match or before a sales engagement to feel prepared. Fight, how do you show up? How do you spot openings, fill those openings, and position yourself for success? Winning, how do you actually close the deal? And then post-fight, what do you do after an engagement, win or lose? And this formula, it's very important to understand, this is a system, this is recursive. So what we learn from post-fight then becomes new information for the next engagement. And because it's systematic, it's something we embed in every engagement. It becomes a formula that allows us to be successful in every engagement, win or lose.
And listen, you don't need to know. I saw somebody was putting in the chat there that they're part of a jiu-jitsu studio in Central Florida. So, you don't need to know jiu-jitsu though. Like you can 100% implement the system without it. But what we want to show you is the kinesthetics, like the physicality of jiu-jitsu and translating it to these systems and these strategies makes you unstoppable. And so what we're going to be diving in today is 4 specific strategies we want to teach you. One in one from each of the 4 domains: train, set up your win, reinforce, and postmortem. And really, these are tested. These are proven strategies that have been generating over $100 million in business. And we want to, when implemented correctly, you're going to see the immediate effects of these out in the field. So let's dive right in and do this. So right now, let's talk a little bit about pre-fight. Let's set us up here. What Elliott's going to set us up here around dead versus alive training has been game changer for us.
So before an engagement, we want to think about our inner game, kind of do our internal work. We have to have our intelligence, meaning understand our industry. And then we develop a strategy. And the strategy always starts with a game plan. But no matter how well you've devised a game plan, reality will always give you surprises. And one of the things that separates jiu-jitsu from other arts is not just the specific techniques. There are other arts that use the same techniques, but it's how we train those techniques. If you are, say, trying to practice a self-defense technique where someone grabs you by the wrist or grabs you around the waist, it's very different to try that technique against someone who's cooperating with you versus someone who's actually trying to stop you. We're going to take a quick look at this concept demonstrated in a real situation, or rather on the mat, so you can see how it applies in a sales engagement.
Pre-fight is broken down into inner game intelligence and strategy. In intelligence, we study the field. We look at the history of jiu-jitsu and current and upcoming trends. Learning from studying that a lot of people, when they start a match, are going to proactively choose to take the bottom position because it allows them to either knock their opponent down and get on top, or possibly even pull them into a submission, which ends the match. We need to develop a strategy to address that. If we like to take the fight to the ground, if we like to be on top, we don't want our opponent to be able to get to the bottom without getting punished for it. So if I can take Dan down before he's able to pull guard by, say, using a long distance technique like the low single, or if as he comes to me to pull guard, I can sweep his foot out of the way, or while he's pulling guard, I can counter him and bypass getting to side control or knee on belly, I can still play my game without having to be at risk of kind of getting pulled into his game without having the opportunity to be advanced or winning the match. Now, these are great. These are excellent strategies, excellent game plans, knowing that many people will pull guard. But it's not enough to have a strategy in theory. You have to test it. What separates jiu-jitsu from many, many martial arts that even have the exact same techniques is that we train against resistance. How do I know this is really going to work unless I've tested it against someone who's trying to stop me? So I'll get you back up a bit. So we start a match. I know he's going to come in. I have one of these options. Maybe I choose my long distance one. Maybe I come in to try to sweep his foot. But his goal when we train like this is to actually get to the bottom before I can do that. So go, he tries to get to the bottom. It's kind of halfway there. Go, he comes in. Would I have gotten that? We don't know. He tries to pull. I try to bypass. It didn't work. Excellent. This is reality. Unless you do this kind of training, unless you actually fail in the training, you won't be ready to when a real challenge comes up in a real situation.
So, pre-scripted objection handling. This is pretty standard in a lot of sales organizations. It's pretty standard as a way to train in a way that tries to prepare you for the real world of any industry, including real estate. And what I found is it doesn't work. And what worked instead was creating sparring partners. So what I do now is my team gets together. They have a dedicated time every week where they get together and they become the person that they could not overcome their objection, that they couldn't close into a deal, they couldn't get their home to list, or they couldn't become working with somebody who wants to purchase, buyer, they become that person, and their partner, the sparring partner, will give them real resistance. And it's real world, it's in the moment. Some of it, my team will do, if the person was surly, they'll be surly. If they were having a good day, they're overly happy. If they were kind, and whatever accents, sometimes, like whatever they could bring to make it real in the moment, changes the dynamics of that training moment, to make it real, make it visceral, not something that was something they written on a page and they have to try to make alive, and like, yeah, we did that. And then they go and I watch their videos, and they weren't able to, even on a real world scenario, they weren't able to take what was written on a page and actually put it to the client. And it would be this disconnect. They wouldn't be closing. And the second that we implemented this with a logbook, and this is something we're going to give you guys at the end here, is some of our tools associated with these four as our gift to, as our thank you for being on this opportunity to speak to all of you. So just stay tuned for that at the end. But we have this training log that allows your teams to log all the ahas that happen within these training sessions. And then normally we do them over Zoom so that they're recorded, and allows you to have other team members come in and watch the sparring sessions and gain the ahas as well. So now you're disseminating learnings across the organization. And what I saw was a 10% increase in my team's performance in the real world if they're doing this on a sparring on a consistent basis. So, what's 10% worth to you to increase? If you're a solo practitioner, you have your own business, then, and you don't have anybody else, I'd just find somebody else in your industry that you can connect with, and just say, listen, I want us to both be better. And maybe they're different areas of the city or whatnot, not necessarily competition, and be looking to do this, and you will see amazing results moving forward for you. So we're gonna move into the next section here on setting up your win.
So once we move into the phase fight, first things first is we need to connect with our opponent, then spot openings. Once we spot openings, though, the whole secret, like all of jiu-jitsu, is based on one principle for how a smaller person can overcome a bigger person, and that's positioning. We say, positioning is what allows winning to not only be inevitable, but losing impossible. And once we start thinking about positioning, your first job is to secure a good position. Then slowly, incrementally improve your position. But eventually, this idea of positioning is great, but eventually we have to be ready to start closing the deal. And so setting up your win is the idea of setting things up in advance so that by the time you get to the close, there is no opportunity for the opponent to escape, or there is no willingness or desire for the prospect to not want to work with you. We're going to take a look at how this applies on the mat, so Daniel can take us through how it applies in the boardroom.
Okay, now that we've established a good position, secured our position, and improved it, it's time to set up our win. So, for example, I got past Dan's legs, I secured the position, I improved my position into the mount. Within the mount, I improved my position by getting rid of his arm. And now it's good that we're in a good position, but now we need to actually start thinking about finishing the match. So rather than just jump into a submission, we want to secure it step by step in order to start setting up our win. For those that are familiar with jiu-jitsu, they'll know this, but those that aren't, there's a very powerful submission that hyperextends the arm. Dan's arm goes from 90 degrees to 180, but it doesn't go past 180. If I can get into a position where I can hyperextend his arm, he'll be forced to tap, and that will allow me to win the match, and we'll get into the finer details there. So the idea being that rather than jump into that submission, I want to put myself in position so that I can. I want to make sure this is a secure position as well, rather than just jumping on the submission, hoping for victory without a lot of security.
So with this thinking in mind, as we bring it into the sales domain, the idea of the cost of inaction, or what I call the COI statement, the idea of saying what would happen if the solution to their problem, in this case, selling a home, perhaps, doesn't happen. They decide, well, we're not going to list, or we're not going to list with you. But let's say let's say we're not going to list. Well, what most people do is completely ignore the cost of inaction, and they just go into rote objection handling, versus, and what you should be doing is having the customers state themselves what their cost of not taking action is going to have on them. So the point here is you want to draw it out of them. You can't actually be the one that tells them, well, if you don't sell now, you're going to be losing out on all these gains, or the market's really hot right now, or whatnot. You need to ask them the question and have them tell you what is the cost of them not taking this action right now. And understanding what those costs are will give you leverage later on in a sales process. But way before you get that objection, you'll have established very early on in the sales process what that cost of inaction is. And for some, it may be they wanted to cash in now so they can have a better retirement, upgrade the home. Like, what are the factors at play that if they don't do that now, so, okay, let's say you can't sell the home now and you can't get that money out for your retirement. Like, what would happen for you? Well, I guess it's dog food for us, or they may say, well, I may have to go move in with the kids. Now, how they say it is very important. And the tonality of what they said, the cadence, it's very different than saying, well, I guess I'll have to eat dog food, or, I think I'm just gonna have to go to the food bank. That's very different. And how you say it back to them in the moment that you need it. Later on in the sales process, you can almost think of this like a Teflon, jacket that the objections can kind of float off of. If you implement this correctly, it's a very powerful salient moment where if you get a dead objection that really there's not a way around, you can come back to this and say, well, early on you told me that, listen, if you don't do this, you might be eating dog food, or getting in with your kids. How does that feel? And if you can secure this early on, it is definitely a way to set up your win in a very powerful way. All right, so we're going to move on to something that completely blew my mind when Elliott shared with me about what it takes to not let a sale slip through your fingers.
So as we move into this last phase of the kind of match or the engagement itself, we move into winning. We're looking to close the deal. In Jiu-Jitsu, we have what we call submissions, which are these kind of checkmate moves. And the idea is that our first step is to actually try to close the deal. But there's an expression in Eastern philosophy: most people fail in their endeavors because they're not as careful in the end as they are in the beginning. So this careful step-by-step diligent approach that we took to positioning, now that we're at the final stage, it's very easy to kind of see that, oh, the submission, the opportunity to close is right there, and to just be a little reckless. We want to be just as careful here as we were in positioning. And so making little adjustments, the tiniest little adjustments at that final stage. So for example, if you are trying to hyperextend someone's arm, simply pinching your knees together, turning their thumb 45 degrees, these little adjustments at that final stage can actually make it impossible for them to escape. And so rather than just get excited about this is the kind of last stage in the process, we want to be as diligent about positioning ourselves in these micro moments, these micro opportunities, as we were in positioning ourselves to get here in the first place.
So, as we bring this into the sales domain, the idea of like, if your prospects are lukewarm, if at this point in the process, they should be asking more questions or just salivating, really, what could be happening is you're not doing future casting. And this is the idea of painting a picture of what the future would be like once their specific problem is solved. So in your guys' domain, it's, what would happen if they couldn't find the home for their family, the new home for the family, or they couldn't sell the home that they are currently in. If they are, maybe you're trying to help commercial properties, if you can't get that business to expand to a larger footprint or plant, or move into larger offices, or downsize potentially because they've become more lean. What is the future going to be like for them once that happens? Like, once it happens for them? And here is where you co-create. You actually dream a little bit with them. And really, if you understand all those points, like everything about what that new future is possible. Wow, the kids can have their own rooms, and we want a basement where we can have movie nights or family nights, or I want that to be a man cave with a pool table, or whatever it is. Like, what are they dreaming about? Or if we get into this larger plant, we can produce more orders faster. We're going to be able to make more profitability, hire more people. Like, depending on the domains, you need to just, obviously, commercial or residential real estate. But once you understand those elements, it is very powerful to be able to feed that back to them within the sales process and have them as an anchor point within the sales process. Two pieces of sort of bonus strategies to leverage on this. One is leveraging belief in them that when they reach that new future, that's going to happen. It's like, I believe in you, I believe in what's possible, and together we're going to make that happen. The other element of future casting that sort of forces the salesperson to tap into areas that may not be native. Oftentimes we sell like we buy. If we're an emotional buyer, we sell emotionally, and we don't sell tactically. If we're a tactical buyer, we tend to sell tactically, and it leaves 50% of the population high and dry. What future casting forces us to do is get both tactical and emotional. And as you know, most people are one tactical buyer married to an emotional buyer. And this future casting process taps into and forces you to look at tactical and emotional elements combined. And when you do this, you're going to be able to have more buy-in and tighter, better clients that are going to come along the ride with you. So, if you've ever been in a situation where, you've hit it out of the park one day, and, the next day with similar circumstances, things don't work. One of the things that might be happening is consistent postmortems. And what Elliott shared along the lines of what he does with his athletes in this domain, it really changed my thinking here.
So we say on the mats, you win or you learn. And so whether you're a professional athlete or a professional salesperson, of course, we know to turn our losses into lessons, but that's not the only source of lessons. And this is where having a system is so important. It's very easy for, most people will say, don't even study their losses, and it's the professional who does. But there's more insight to be gleaned, more wisdom to be gleaned as well from your wins. And so I'll share a quick story. We had a student of mine who was fighting in a mixed martial arts match. He was a purple belt fighting a local black belt. And because jiu-jitsu specializes in ground fighting, we knew that the black belt had the greatest chance if the fight went to the ground. So the strategy was to never let the fight get there. Now, this fight ended in about 3 minutes. It was very one-sided. It'd be very easy to look at that and say, it went so well, there's nothing really to learn. But because we do this as a system, because every time we have a match, we analyze what worked and what didn't, we saw that even though it was very one-sided, there was one moment where that black belt got close enough where it was possible for him to take my student down. Now, my student stopped that takedown, got on top, and won very quickly. But why was it possible? Had we not done this analysis as a system, had we not done it as a habit, then we wouldn't have seen that he was doing a great job actually keeping distance, but he was actually staying right in front of his opponent as opposed to circling around. And that was what allowed the black belt to get close enough where it was possible to take him down. Because we did this analysis, we changed his training, we integrated a lot more circular movement, and that ended up being pivotal in future fights. And so this idea of systematically learning from every engagement, win or lose, is really, really vital.
Absolutely. Most sales professionals don't study their wins enough. And when you study your wins, you do more of those things more often. And, I'll tell you a quick story. One of my sales reps, they were doing fairly well, but all of a sudden I saw a spike in their sales results. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's figure out what's going on here. That's pretty good. We better replicate it. And so I watched their first calls, and their first calls were pretty good. And I saw the second call, and something shifted in the prospect. They were a little bit more engaged, even more excited, and they closed. And I'm like, what are you doing between the first call and the second call that I'm not seeing that's resulting in that act? Oh, they said, well, what I've been doing is I've been sending a quick video and I'm summarizing our conversation and reinforcing why they should move forward with us. I said, brilliant. So I went ahead and did that, and increased conversion rates for everybody on the team. So leveraging video is a very, very good tool. I know, obviously walkthroughs for, all that tactical stuff but in terms of your ability to close somebody, sending them a video after an initial consultation with them as to like whether or not you're gonna represent them could be a very a great way to reinforce the reasons why to work with you, or the reasons why they said they wanted to work with you. So ultimately they sign up to actually move forward. So video is a very, very good tool within sales. We send about each rep sends about 1,000 BombBomb videos. It's the tool we use called BombBomb, BOMB.com. There's other tools out there like it, but we like that from trackability. Tracking is really good on it. But a great tool to use. And so we have a call review guide we're going to give you in just a few minutes. And that'll allow you to break down like any kind of call. It would call it lost, call it won. And it gives you question prompts, allowing you to really analyze your interactions. And if you're going into the homes and stuff, I would recommend looking at just like audio recapturing, just for yourself to review what happened in your interactions. It's really, really powerful to go through this as a process. So we're going to give you guys that. And ultimately, it'll increase your conversion rates because you're studying them and you're being a student of them. And obviously, you're going to increase your revenues, your take-home revenues. So again, you don't need jiu-jitsu in order to implement anything. But whether you're a sales professional, maybe you're a solopreneur, you run your own business, or even manage a sales team, Sales Jiu-Jitsu System is going to show you the exact steps you need to take things to the next level. And we know sales is not just a vital piece. Without any sales is the lifeblood of any business. But sales is really, we feel like it's a noble thing. Like it's a noble activity to be doing. It's you're helping people find new homes, sell their homes, find businesses to find new ways to dwell on and bring in new clients and hire new people. It is a noble engine of change and force of change within our world. Without us doing our jobs properly, everything begins with the sale and everything else is possible outside of that. So, I honor you and all of you here watching this, that you just need to pat yourself on the back. Sometimes we get a bad rap around sales. So our gift to all of you is it's a quick mini course. These are really quick, implementable. It's based on these 4 pieces of the puzzle that we just shared with you here, and really gives you worksheets and some guides in order to quickly implement. All you need to do is go to salesjujitsubook.com/faster. And I think we're going to put that in the chat. Thanks, appreciate it, Jake. And for those of you can go and grab that piece for you, and that should only take you about an hour to go through all of them, and you can do that in little chunks, and again, like little quick 15-minute videos that'll help you implement them really quick. So I just want to leave you with this one story. My grandfather, at the age of 12, was captured by the Nazis in World War II and put into a concentration camp. He was put into a boxcar, shipped across the country from Poland, and at his first stop, they pulled everybody out. They lined them up against the wall. He was the fourth in line. And as they went through that line, they went to the first person. They said, "What do you do?" He said, "I'm an accountant." They shot him in the head. Second person, they said, what do you do?" "I'm a lawyer." They shot him in the head. Third person said, "What do you do?" He said, I'm a janitor. I clean very well." And the guard said, "Okay, come." And they came to my grandfather. And near the end of my life, end of his life, I asked my grandfather, I said, what is the biggest advice that you would give the next generation of Moskowitzes coming down the line? And he says, "Listen more than you speak, because when you speak, your words can make all the difference." And so they asked my grandfather, "What do you do?" 12 years old. He says, "My sisters taught me how to cook amazing food." I said, "Okay, come." And his words that day saved his life, and that's why I'm here with all of you. But it reminds me, and that story to share with you, that whatever you say in this world can make all the difference. And the lives of the people that you impact in this world matter. They matter a lot. And so I hope you dive in and get our mini course, because it'll teach you ways to create the words that will impact the people and the lives of the people that you are impacting on a daily basis. So with that, I'd like to thank all of you for tuning in here today. We'd love to take some questions if you can. Jake said that he's in Facebook and can always put some there from us. And any of you that are here live with us on Zoom could also use the chat function. If you're not familiar with Zoom, you can find the chat button on the bottom, where on the left it'll say mute and stop, and then in the middle it'll say chat. And you can always, we'll spend just a couple, 1 or 2 minutes here, and if you want to gather your thoughts and put that together.
I will say, for anyone listening, I've got to sit in on Daniel basically doing live Q&As with sales folks, and it's been really remarkable to see such a wide variety of challenges come up and him be able to kind of offer real, what I would consider black belt sales tips. So while you have him here, definitely take advantage. If you're struggling, any challenges you're having with a particular prospect right now, or situation you're experiencing in general, it's a great opportunity to pick the brain of someone who's got a wealth of experience and some great strategies.
Thanks, Elliott. Thank you, Samantha. Really appreciate that. Yeah, one of the common questions we get is, like, of the 4, what should I implement first? I always think that COI and future casting are pretty easy ones to start with. And if I were to pick one, I'd say future casting is probably the easiest one to really lean into. One of our coaching students, Craig, he leaned in on just on one element, like sending videos as a post piece to his, he's a financial advisor. And he generated $100,000 more in a month just because he did post videos, post his interactions. And really focusing in on future casting was something that was really good for him. So that's a common question we typically get.
I think with Craig as well, it was the emotional buyer.
Yeah, and that was the future casting really allowed him to do that. Yeah. Tom, thanks so much. Appreciate that. Awesome, dude. Dive in. You're gonna get a lot of. We hear a lot of great things from that. And just the biggest one is that people find it so easy and quick to implement. I hate long courses. They bug me. So we made everything very short and easy, and the templates are all there for you to just download and start implementing. So that's great, Tom. Thank you. I'm already thinking about how to implement current clients. Samantha, that's awesome. That's great. Yeah. Yeah. You'll see how their imaginations will go big, and you can just sort of stoke the flames of that, right? And be really diligent with note taking, because let me tell you, you be the one that remembers that it was really important to them to have a gazebo out back, or to the CEO of a business that the front entrance looks a certain way or has a certain feeling to it, or enough offices for the executive, like whatever that is, like all the little details in the future casting make matter and show that you care, that, and when they're emotional with you, the details matter, the subtleties matter. So yeah. Yeah. That's awesome, Tom. Yeah, 100%. It's, I mean, I see sales as a full body in any way, shape, or form. Like, I don't care what domain you're in. We get brought out to speak to all the different niches. And if you think of it from a full body perspective, it really does change. And having some new strategies. I mean, you guys can also pick up our book. It goes through all 30 of all of our strategies. But when you have specific strategies that really key in on that the full 360 picture of a person, or a business, that you're working with, it does change the dynamic and allows you to, just close more. Yeah. I mean, because you show you care in a way that's deep and meaningful. And then thinking of it as a system, like always doing those things, not skipping it because, oh, you think this time you got a good gut feeling it's going to go better or worse or whatever. Ignore that feeling. Just do it anyways. Like always do it. Always do a postmortem. Always do it. And you'll see the fruits of that. You'll see the fruits of that for sure. Yeah, appreciate Tom, Samantha. Thank you so much for engaging in chat. It's very meaningful to us because we love to pour all of what we have into our presentations. And it's I thank you very much for engaging with us in the chat. That's very nice. Thank you. We'll give another minute. If anybody else wants to make a comment or ask a question, I'd really appreciate it. And then we'll put this to a close. Milo D, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. It was amazing, man. All right. Well, listen, Jake, thank you so much for facilitating us here. Is there a specific way you'd like to end the session? I don't hear you there, Jake, but we're good. Thanks again. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate you, spending some time with us today. And oh, your mic died. Okay, no problem at all. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for being here today. Really, really appreciate LabCoatAgents for having us out and serving you all. Can't wait to hear some responses from you guys signing up for our mini course. And yeah, let us know how it went for you. How it, drop us a line. You'll get an email. You'll get an email from us, and feel free. We would love to, interact that way as well. So thank you very much for your time today, and have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.